My name is Hannah Miles, and I'm 35 years old. I was born and raised in Boston, but life later took me to Chicago, where I built everything I have now, my company, my peace, and my independence. But the one thing I couldn't build, no matter how hard I tried, was a real family bond. Before I begin, let me ask, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, because I want to know how far this story travels. Trust me, this one will test your heart. It all started one cold Friday evening when I came home after a long business trip. My job as a marketing consultant keeps me moving between states, but that day I decided to surprise my family. I carried a small box of souvenirs for everyone, perfume for Mom, a wristwatch for Dad, and a small gift card for my younger brother, Tyler. He's 24 and still trying to figure life out, as he always says. When I walked through the door, the house smelled different. Not the usual scent of Mom's cinnamon rolls. This was wet fur. Dog fur. Tyler. I called out. No answer. I heard paws scratching against the floor, and suddenly a golden retriever came running toward me, wagging its tail. I froze. We never owned a dog. Then I heard his voice behind me. Hey, sis. You met Max. I turned. Tyler was grinning from ear to ear, wearing that same smug expression I used to see when we were kids, and he got away with something. I looked around the living room. My laptop bag wasn't there. The silver one I always kept near the couch, gone. My heart skipped. Tyler, where's my laptop? He looked away, rubbing the back of his neck. Oh, that thing? Don't freak out, okay? I sold it. My mind went blank. You what? I sold it, he repeated, more confidently this time, like he was doing me a favor. I needed money for Max here. He's purebred. Dad said it's fine. My fingers trembled. You sold my work laptop? Tyler, that laptop had all my company files, client data, designs, everything. Before I could even take another breath, Dad stepped out from the kitchen. Hannah, calm down. It's just a laptop. Your brother needed something to keep him busy. I blinked. Just a laptop? Yes, Dad said sternly. You can buy another one. Don't shout. I stared at him in disbelief. Dad, that laptop cost over $4,000. All my data. He cut me off, his tone sharper. I said, stop shouting. I tried to explain again, but before I could, he slapped me across the face. The sound echoed through the room. Everything went silent. Even the dog stopped wagging its tail. Tyler stood by the door, half smiling, half smirking, like he was proud of what he'd done. My cheek burned. My heart raced. For a second, I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I didn't. Instead, I just stood there holding back tears. Then I quietly picked up my phone, stepped aside, and dialed a number. Jessica, I said. My voice was calm, almost too calm. Jessica was my secretary. Liquidate everything. She paused. Everything. Everything, I repeated. All accounts, all shares, all contracts. Do it tonight. I hung up, grabbed my coat, and walked out. Dad shouted after me. Where do you think you're going? I didn't answer. Tyler's laughter followed me to the driveway. Don't take it so seriously, sis. It's just a dog. That night, I sat in my car in front of the dark street, watching the house I once called home. My heart was heavy. The people inside had no idea what they had just lost. When the first light of morning came, I turned on my phone. 23 missed calls from Dad. And one text message that made me pause. Please, Hannah, don't do this. I looked at the screen, my jaw tightening. Then I typed slowly, word by word. I will sell you all. And press send. But before we get deeper into what that message truly meant, you need to know who I am and how it all came to this. Growing up, my family wasn't rich, but we were close. Mom was a nurse who worked night shifts, and Dad was a schoolteacher, strict, but always fair, or so I thought. Tyler was the baby of the family, the golden child. No matter what he did, he got away with it. When he crashed Dad's car at 16, Dad said, "Boys make mistakes." When I broke a vase accidentally, I was grounded for a week. It was like that my whole life. I studied hard, worked through college on scholarships, and later built a marketing firm from scratch. Meanwhile, Tyler drifted from one job to another, spending his time gaming and buying things he couldn't afford. Every time he messed up, Dad bailed him out. I used to send money home every month, paid the bills, bought groceries, even fixed the roof once. It made me feel connected to them, like family still mattered. But slowly, I began to see how little they respected what I did. Every success I shared felt like it annoyed them more than it impressed them. Tyler once joked, "Oh, big CEO now, huh?" And Dad laughed. Still, I never stopped helping. Until that night. The slap wasn't just about a laptop. It was about years of being taken for granted, years of silence when I needed their support. It was the moment something in me finally broke. I didn't cry that night. Not once. Instead, I planned. My company wasn't just successful, it was powerful. I had investments in several startups, a few properties, and even a charity foundation that Dad didn't know I fully owned. When I told Jessica to liquidate everything, I wasn't being dramatic. I was preparing for a storm they couldn't escape. But as the night grew darker, a small part of me wondered if I was doing the right thing. Revenge and justice. They sound similar until you taste them. Still, I knew I had to make a point. The next day, when Dad's calls came in nonstop, I didn't answer. I only watched as the notifications kept flashing. Then one call came from Mom. I stared at the screen for a long time, heart twisting. I didn't pick up. Because deep down, I wanted them to feel something: panic, regret, fear. Something that would finally make them understand what I had gone through. And maybe, just maybe, they'd realize it wasn't just a dog. But little did I know, the story was far from over. Because what happened next, the consequences of that one text, would shake everything I thought I knew about family, forgiveness, and power. That night, as I sat alone in my apartment overlooking the city, I heard a knock on my door. It was almost midnight. When I opened it, what I saw made my heart stop. The knock echoed again, 3 slow, heavy thuds that rattled the door frame. I hesitated, my hand frozen on the doorknob. Midnight wasn't exactly the hour for friendly visits. The city outside was quiet, the kind of silence that makes your chest tighten. For a brief second, I thought maybe it was building security or a neighbor. But deep down, I knew this was about last night. I opened the door. There, standing in the hallway under the flickering yellow light, was my father. His hair was messy, his shirt half-buttoned, his eyes red and tired. He looked like he hadn't slept. "Hannah," he said quietly. I stood still, arms folded. "How did you find where I live?" He sighed. "Your mother told me. Please, can we talk?" I looked past him and saw Tyler leaning against the wall near the elevator, wearing a hoodie and clutching the leash of that golden retriever, Max. The dog wagged its tail innocently, unaware of the chaos it had caused. The sight made my chest tighten with anger. "There's nothing to talk about," I said firmly. "Go home." "Hannah, please." Dad's voice cracked. "I made a mistake." "Mistake?" I said, my tone sharp. "You humiliated me, Dad. You slapped me in front of him. And for what?" "Because I was upset that he sold my laptop." Tyler muttered under his breath. "You're still on about that?" I turned to him, eyes narrowing. "Yes, Tyler. I'm still on about that. Because that laptop was my life's work." He scoffed. "You're being dramatic. I'll get you another one." Before I could respond, Dad raised his hand. "Tyler, not another word." Then he turned back to me. "Hannah, listen. I shouldn't have hit you. I was angry and tired. But what you're doing now, it's too much. Your secretary told me what's happening." My stomach tightened. "She told you?" He nodded. "Jessica called your mother. She was crying. Said you were shutting everything down. Selling the office building, the company's shares, even the trust funds." I said nothing. Dad stepped closer, his voice trembling. "You're hurting yourself, Hannah. Please stop this." I stared at him, unblinking. "No, Dad. I'm not hurting myself. I'm teaching you a lesson. For once, you're going to understand how it feels to lose something you built." Tyler rolled his eyes. You're insane. That word burned through me like fire. I turned slowly toward him. You think this is funny? He shrugged. It's just money. You have plenty. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. You don't get it, Tyler. It's not about the money, it's about respect. Something you've never given me. Dad rubbed his forehead. Hannah, we raised you better than this. You're not cruel. I almost laughed. You're right. I'm not. But I'm done being your ATM. You all treated me like I didn't matter. Like everything I did was just expected. Well, not anymore. Dad looked defeated. Please, sweetheart, don't do this. But I could see it in his eyes, the same pride that had always blinded him. He wasn't here because he finally understood. He was here because he was scared of losing what I controlled. I slowly closed the door. Hannah, he shouted, banging on it. Don't walk away. I leaned against the door, tears threatening to fall, but I held them back. Then silence. After a few seconds, I peeked through the peephole. They were gone. Or so I thought. Because at 3 a.m., I woke up to the sound of barking. Loud, desperate barking. I rushed to the balcony and looked down at the street below. There was Max, tied to the gate outside my building, whining and struggling. I quickly threw on a sweater, ran downstairs, and untied the dog. It was shivering, scared. My heart broke a little, even though I didn't want it to. There was a note attached to its collar. It said, "You care more about things than family. Take your precious dog and live with your money." My breath caught. The handwriting was Tyler's. I looked around the dark street, but he was nowhere in sight. The anger I felt earlier shifted into something deeper, sorrow. I carried Max upstairs, wrapped him in a blanket, and gave him water. He curled up beside me on the couch like he'd known me forever. I stared at him for a long time, whispering, "You didn't ask for any of this, did you?" His eyes, so gentle and full of trust, made me realize how far things had gone. By sunrise, I had decided something. I wasn't going to let anger turn me into the same kind of person who hurt me. But just as I began to make peace with that thought, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Jessica. "Ma'am, I think something strange is happening. The bank just froze 3 of your accounts. And there's a legal notice filed in your name, but you didn't authorize it." I froze. "What do you mean?" I texted back. She replied, "Someone used your company credentials to access your digital signature. The same one on your laptop." My heart dropped. The laptop. The one Tyler sold. The one that contained everything. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred as realization hit me. Whoever had that laptop now had access to my company, my finances, my life. And Tyler had sold it to a stranger. I grabbed my phone and keys, adrenaline surging. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was destruction. And it had only just begun. The morning sun had barely climbed above the skyline when I stormed out of my apartment, my heart pounding like thunder in my chest. The streets of Chicago were already alive, cars honking, people rushing, vendors opening up, but for me, the world had gone silent. Every second felt like it was ticking toward disaster. Jessica's words echoed in my head. "Someone used your digital signature." That meant whoever had my laptop wasn't just looking through my personal files. They were moving money, signing documents, possibly even impersonating me. And the worst part? I had no idea who they were. I jumped into my car and dialed Jessica as I drove. "Tell me everything." Her voice trembled. The bank called. 3 of our main accounts were accessed last night. Around 2:40 a.m., someone tried transferring $250,000 to an unknown offshore account, but it got flagged before it went through. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Was it stopped? Yes, for now. But they still have your credentials. If they try again from a different server, the system won't recognize it as a repeat attempt. My pulse raced. And the legal notice you mentioned? They filed a document with your e-signature, a share release form. It states that you willingly transferred ownership of your company's shares to a new name. Whose name? I asked. She hesitated. A man named Ethan Walker. I frowned. Ethan who? I'm still checking. But the weird thing is, she paused, then said slowly, "The signature matches perfectly, Hannah. It's your digital fingerprint. It could only come from your laptop." I slammed my hand against the steering wheel. "Tyler." Jessica went quiet. "He sold it," I said bitterly. "He sold my laptop to someone named Ethan Walker. And now that person is trying to steal my company." Jessica's voice grew small. "What do we do?" I took a deep breath. "First, freeze every account we have. Call the IT department. Tell them to shut down all access keys linked to my credentials. Then call the legal team. I want a report filed within the hour." "Got it." I hung up and pressed harder on the gas. By the time I reached my office building downtown, my security team was already waiting at the door. The tall glass windows reflected the morning light, but inside, the tension was heavy. My assistant, Nora, rushed to me. "Ma'am, the board is in panic mode. Investors have been calling since dawn. Everyone's asking if the company is being sold." I gave her a sharp look. "No one answers those calls. No one. Not until I find out what's going on." As I enter my office, everything looked normal. My awards lined up, my framed photo with the staff, the painting Mom gave me for my birthday. But under the calm surface, chaos brewed. I sat at my desk, turned on the backup system, and opened the security logs. The hacker had been clever, using VPN layers and encrypted signals, but I could see the traces. The breach came from a small electronics shop registered under the name Bright Tech Repairs. That had to be where the laptop was sold. I grabbed my coat and left immediately. The shop was in a rough part of town, where the streets looked tired and cracked, and the signs hung crookedly. When I walked in, a man behind the counter looked up nervously. "Good morning," I said coldly. "You bought a silver MacBook Pro last week, serial number ending in 729F. I want it back." He blinked. Lady, I don't." "Don't lie to me." I slapped a photo of the serial code on the counter. "That laptop was stolen. You have two options: call whoever you sold it to, or I'll have the police here in 5 minutes." His face turned pale. Okay. Look, I didn't know it was stolen. A young guy came in 2 days ago, said he needed quick cash. I gave him $500 for it. Where is it now?" He hesitated. "Sold it same day. Some rich dude, mid-30s, sharp suit, drove a black Mercedes. Paid full price in cash. Said his name was Ethan." "Ethan Walker?" He nodded quickly. "Yeah, that's him. He even left a business card." He rummaged through a drawer and handed me a sleek black card. It had golden letters engraved across the front. "Ethan Walker, Venture Holdings LLC." My eyes narrowed. Venture Holdings was a rival investment firm, one that had tried to buy out my company last year. I'd turned them down. And now, somehow, they had my laptop. This wasn't coincidence. This was payback. I stepped outside, heart pounding, and called Jessica again. "I know who did it. Ethan Walker, CEO of Venture Holdings. He's trying to take my company through a forged transfer using my stolen laptop." Jessica gasped. "That's insane. Should we call the police?" I exhaled slowly. "No, not yet. If I go to the police, this will hit the press in hours. Our stock will crash. Our investors will panic. I need proof first. So, what do we do?" I looked at the business card again. "We pay Ethan a visit." That afternoon, I drove to Venture Holdings headquarters, a tall, black glass building that looked as soulless as the man who ran it. The receptionist tried to stop me, but one glare was enough. When I entered his office, Ethan was sitting behind his desk, scrolling on his phone. He looked up with a calm smile. Well, he said smoothly. "If it isn't Hannah Miles herself, what brings the famous marketing genius to my humble office?" "You know why I'm here," I said, my voice cold. "You bought my stolen laptop." He leaned back in his chair. "Ah, yes. A fine device. I found some interesting things on it." My jaw tightened. "You accessed my files." "I simply opened what was already there," he said casually. "It's amazing what people forget to protect. Business strategies, client lists, partnership records. Very valuable information." I stepped closer. "Return it." "Now." He chuckled. And why would I do that? You rejected my merger offer last year, remember? Said you'd never work with someone like me. Well, now it seems the universe decided otherwise. I glared. You think stealing from me will make you win? I don't steal, he said, his tone darkening. I acquire. It's business. For a moment, the room went silent. My pulse roared in my ears. You made a mistake, I said finally. Because you didn't just steal from me. You involved my family. And that means you made it personal. He smiled faintly. Then I look forward to seeing what you'll do about it. I turned and walked out, but before I reached the door, he called after me. Oh, and Hannah? I stopped. Tell your little brother thanks for the deal, he said mockingly. He's a terrible negotiator. The world spun for a second. My heart dropped. Tyler. Ethan had met Tyler. That's when I realized the betrayal wasn't complete yet. It was still unfolding. By the time I got home that night, I could barely think straight. The city lights blurred outside my window. My mind was a storm of rage and disbelief. Then my phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. It was a video. I pressed play. It was Tyler, sitting in Ethan Walker's office, shaking hands with him. Ethan looked straight into the camera, smiling, and said, "Say hello to your new partner, Hannah." The screen went black. I dropped the phone, my hands trembling. He hadn't just stolen my laptop. He had bought my brother. The video played again in my mind like a broken record. Tyler, smiling, sitting across from Ethan Walker, the man who stole my laptop, my company's secrets, and now my brother. I sat frozen on the couch, staring at the blank screen of my phone long after the clip ended. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from disbelief. Tyler, I whispered. What have you done? It didn't make sense. How could he? He was my little brother. The same boy I used to carry on my back when he scraped his knees. The same one I defended in front of teachers when he got into trouble. But now he was sitting across from my enemy, smiling like it was some kind of victory. Max, the golden retriever, whined softly at my feet, sensing my distress. I reached down and stroked his fur absent-mindedly. Don't worry, I murmured. We're going to fix this. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from Mom. Please, Hannah, don't do anything crazy. Your father is sick. Come home. Sick? For a moment, I hesitated. Then my anger surged again. I'd fallen for that kind of message before. Every time I tried to walk away, they found a way to pull me back with guilt. But not this time. Not after what Tyler did. I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out the door. It was late evening when I arrived at my parents' house. The air felt heavy, thick with tension and memories. I could see the lights on inside, shadows moving through the curtains. When I pushed the door open, Mom was sitting on the couch, looking worried. Dad sat beside her, pale and silent, with a blanket draped over his lap. He looked older than I remembered, tired, weak. Hannah, Mom said softly. You came. I didn't smile. Where's Tyler? Mom hesitated. He's in his room. Call him out, I said. Mom started to protest, but the tone in my voice made her stop. She turned toward the hallway. Tyler, your sister's here. A few seconds later, he appeared, wearing a t-shirt, holding a soda, acting like nothing was wrong. When he saw me, he smirked. Oh, look who decided to visit. Sit, I said sharply. He shrugged and dropped onto the couch, legs spread out lazily. I stood in front of him, my arms crossed. You met Ethan Walker. He raised an eyebrow. So, don't sue me, I snapped. You sold my laptop to him. Do you have any idea what you've done? He rolled his eyes. Relax, Hannah. It's not like I meant to. He just made me an offer. Said he could make us both rich. Rich, I echoed, my voice trembling with rage. He's trying to destroy me, Tyler. He's using that laptop to take my company, to ruin everything I built. He scoffed. You're overreacting. It's just business. He said you'd still be fine. My jaw dropped. Business? Tyler, that's not business. That's betrayal. Dad shifted uncomfortably. Hannah, please. I turned to him.
No, Dad.
Not this time. You always make excuses for him. Always. You slapped me when I got angry about what he did. You told me it was just a dog. Well, now it's not just a dog, or just a laptop. Now it's my entire career. Tyler crossed his arms. You think you're better than everyone just because you have money. Maybe this is karma. I froze. Karma? He leaned back.
Yeah.
You walk around acting like you're some saint because you send money and pay for stuff. But you never really belong here, do you? You look down on us. My heart pounded. Tyler, you think I send money because I look down on you? I do it because I love you. Because I wanted to give you a chance. Something I never had. He laughed coldly. Love? That's funny. You're just mad someone finally beat you at your own game. Something inside me snapped. Beat me? I said, my voice rising. You think this is a game? You think betraying your own sister for money is a win? He shrugged again, smug as ever. He offered me a partnership. Said he'd teach me real business. Not this nice girl stuff you do. My vision blurred with tears of fury. Tyler, he's using you. Or maybe he's giving me a chance you never would. I stepped forward, glaring at him. You have no idea what you've walked into. That man doesn't care about you. You're just a pawn to him. And when he's done, he'll destroy you too. Dad finally spoke, his voice weak. Hannah, stop it. You're scaring your brother. I turned to him, disbelief flooding me. Scaring him? He sold my entire life for a few $1,000s and a promise from a crook. Mom stood up, tears in her eyes. Hannah, please. We can fix this. Don't tear the family apart. I looked at all of them, my family, sitting there like strangers. And for the first time in my life, I realized something painful. I'd been trying to hold together something that was already broken. You already tore it apart, I whispered. I just didn't want to see it. I turned toward the door, but as I reached for the handle, Tyler's voice stopped me. You'll regret this, he said. I turned slowly. What did you just say? He smirked. You'll regret going against me. Ethan said if I help him finish the deal, I'll be co-owner. So keep fighting, sis. Let's see who wins. The room went silent. Even Dad looked shocked. I walked up to him, close enough that he could see the fury in my eyes. You think this is a war? I said quietly. Then you have no idea who you're fighting. I turned and walked out, slamming the door behind me. Back in my car, I could feel my hands trembling on the steering wheel. My breath came in short gasps. I wanted to scream, cry, or hit something, but instead, I just stared ahead, letting the anger settle into something sharper. Resolve. If Ethan thought he could manipulate my brother to get to me, he was about to learn exactly who he was dealing with. But before I could start planning, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a live notification from a business news channel. I turned on the sound and froze. The reporter's voice echoed through my car. Breaking news. Venture Holdings has announced a major merger deal with Miles Marketing Group, led by CEO Hannah Miles. Documents show full approval from both sides, including official signatures. Sources confirm her brother, Tyler Miles, as the new junior partner. My heart stopped. They'd done it. They'd used my signature. And now, the world thought I had agreed. The phone slipped from my hand as the screen blurred with tears. Somewhere between fury and heartbreak, I whispered to myself, this isn't over. Because if Ethan Walker thought he had won, he was about to find out what happens when you betray a woman who has nothing left to lose. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a second. I sat by the window of my apartment, staring at the glittering skyline of Chicago, the city that had watched me build everything from scratch. But now, it was the same city that was watching it all burn. On every news channel, every business forum, and every online headline, the story was the same. Venture Holdings merges with Miles Marketing Group. Hannah Miles partners with Ethan Walker in historic deal. Hannah Miles' brother, Tyler, appointed as junior co-owner. The lies spread faster than I could even breathe. I'd spent 15 years building my company with honesty and passion, and in one night, it was stolen, with my own name forged on the paper. I scrolled through my phone, hundreds of missed calls, messages, and emails. Some from clients demanding explanations, some from employees in tears, and others from reporters wanting statements. But there was one name missing: Tyler. He hadn't called once. That told me everything I needed to know. Max, the golden retriever, lay at my feet, his head resting on his paws, watching me quietly. His gentle presence was the only calm thing in that room. I leaned down and whispered, "They think they can destroy me, Max. But they have no idea who I really am." Because the truth was, while Ethan thought he had stolen everything, I still had one thing he didn't: proof. And I was going to use it. The next morning, I went straight to my lawyer, Anthony Collins. He had been my legal advisor for years, sharp, loyal, and one of the few people I truly trusted. When I walked into his office, he looked up from his desk, eyebrows raised. "Hannah, I've been calling you. What's going on? Did you actually sign a merger with Venture Holdings?" "No," I said firmly. "It's a forgery. Ethan Walker used my stolen laptop to fake my digital signature." Anthony frowned. "That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" "Not yet," I admitted. "But I'm going to get it. I know he used my laptop. It has a digital encryption key that only matches my company's server. If we can trace that signature's timestamp and compare it to the security logs, we can prove I wasn't the one who signed it." He nodded slowly. "You're thinking like a strategist."
Good.
"We'll start with a subpoena for Venture Holdings' internal logs. If they resist, we'll go to court." I leaned forward. "We can't go public yet. Not until we have solid evidence. If the media hears that I'm fighting the deal without proof, they'll say I'm unstable." Anthony agreed. "Then we move quietly. Let me handle the legal side. You focus on finding out how deep this goes." I took a deep breath. I already know where to start. Later that afternoon, I returned to Bright Tech Repairs, the small shop where Tyler sold my laptop. The owner looked terrified when I walked in again. "I already told you everything I know," he said quickly. "I'm not here to threaten you," I replied. "I just need the security footage from the day Ethan Walker came in." He hesitated. "That's not allowed without a warrant." I placed an envelope on the counter. "This isn't a bribe. It's payment for your time. You're going to help me expose a criminal." He glanced at the envelope, then sighed.
Fine.
"Wait here." A few minutes later, he returned with a USB drive. "All I have is the camera footage from that afternoon. You'll see the guy, black suit, sunglasses, talking to your brother." I froze.
Wait.
"My brother was there when Ethan bought the laptop?" "Yeah," the man said. "He was with him. I remember because he was laughing. Thought they were partners or something." The air left my lungs. That meant Ethan didn't just find Tyler later. They were already working together before the sale. My stomach turned. Tyler didn't accidentally sell my laptop. He planned it. I grabbed the USB drive, thanked the man, and drove back to my office as fast as I could. In the empty boardroom, I plugged it into the projector and pressed play. The grainy footage flickered to life, the inside of the small electronics shop. And there they were, Tyler and Ethan. Tyler was holding my laptop, smiling, talking animatedly. Ethan was calm, confident, pointing at the screen as if explaining something. Then he handed Tyler an envelope, thick, full of cash. They shook hands. Then Ethan leaned close, said something to him, and Tyler laughed. That laughter echoed through the room like a knife through my heart. I sank into a chair, my eyes fixed on the screen. He had sold me out, not for an accident, not for desperation, but for greed. I sat there in silence for what felt like hours, staring at the image of my brother, the same boy I once sacrificed everything for. Then my phone buzzed. It was Anthony. "Hannah, I have something," he said. The timestamp from the digital signature, it was logged at 2:47 a.m. on the same night your laptop went missing. And guess where the IP address traces back to? Where? Your parents' house. My heart stopped. What?
He sighed.
Someone there must have helped access it remotely. They probably didn't even realize what they were doing. Or they did. I finished quietly. My thoughts raced. If the access came from that house, then Ethan must have connected Tyler's computer to my network while he was there. But someone else had to allow it, someone who knew my system well enough to bypass the firewall. And there was only one person who had that knowledge. My father. Years ago, I had taught him how to use my backup system in case of emergencies. He had my credentials stored in his old desktop, the same one he never updated. He must have thought he was helping Tyler. But in doing so, he had given Ethan the key to everything. That night, I drove back to my parents' house again. My hands were shaking the entire way. When I entered, Mom looked up nervously. "Hannah, what's wrong?" "Where's Dad?" "In his room, resting." Before she could finish, I walked straight to his room. He was sitting up in bed, reading. He looked up, startled. "Hannah, what are you doing here again?" I didn't answer. I walked to his desk and turned on his computer. "Hannah," he said sharply. "That's private." I ignored him. My eyes locked on the screen. The first thing I saw was my company's logo in the browser. Open, active, connected. "You gave him access," I said quietly. "You let Tyler into my system." His expression faltered. I didn't know what he was doing. He said he needed to check something for you. I turned on him. "For me? You believed that? You didn't think to call me? To ask?" He rubbed his forehead. "I just wanted to help him, Hannah." He said it was a business opportunity. I didn't think it was illegal. I snapped. "Dad, because of what you did, I might lose everything." Mom rushed in, crying. "Please, both of you, stop fighting." But I couldn't stop. The words came pouring out like fire. "I've spent my entire life trying to make you proud, trying to prove I was worth something, and all it took was one manipulative man and one greedy brother to destroy it." Dad's voice cracked. "I didn't mean." "No, Dad," I said coldly. "You never mean to. But meaning doesn't undo the damage." I turned to leave, but before I did, I said one last thing. The words that had been buried inside me for years. "You all made me feel like the useless one, but soon you'll see who's really helpless." I walked out before they could reply. Outside, the night air felt colder than ever. My phone buzzed again, this time with an anonymous message. It read, "If you want your company back, meet me alone tomorrow at 9 p.m. Pier 47. Bring no one." There was no name, but I didn't need one. It was Ethan Walker. And somehow I knew Tyler would be there too. The war had officially begun. The night air at Pier 47 was bitterly cold, laced with the metallic scent of water and rust. The wind tugged at my coat as I stepped out of the car, my heels echoing sharply against the damp concrete. The city lights shimmered in the distance, and the lake stretched out before me, dark, endless, silent. It was 8:59 p.m. I was early. I didn't bring anyone, as the message had demanded, but I wasn't foolish either. In my pocket was a small recording device already running. I wasn't here just to talk. I was here to collect evidence. A dog barked faintly somewhere in the distance, followed by the low rumble of a car engine approaching. Headlights cut through the fog, and a sleek black Mercedes came into view. It rolled to a stop a few feet from me. The door opened. Ethan Walker stepped out first, immaculate as ever, dressed in a tailored black coat and gloves. His smirk was calm, confident, practiced. But what caught my eye was the figure behind him. Tyler. My brother. He looked uneasy, avoiding my gaze as he stepped onto the dock. His hands were shoved deep into his jacket pockets. I clenched my fists. "You actually came?" I said coldly. "Guess that means you've run out of lies to hide behind." Ethan smiled faintly. "Hannah, always so dramatic. I told you before, business isn't personal. What happened between us was just opportunity." "Opportunity," I repeated, my voice rising. "You forged my signature, hacked my company's system, and used my brother to do it." Ethan shrugged. "Correction, your brother volunteered." Tyler flinched. "Ethan, don't." "No," Ethan said sharply. "She should know." You see, Hannah, when I met your brother, he wasn't difficult to read. A man desperate for approval. Angry. Jealous. You left him behind while you built your empire. He just wanted a taste. My heart pounded. And you offered it. Of course, Ethan said. Everyone has a price. I turned to Tyler. So, what was yours? How much did it take to sell your sister? He finally looked at me, his eyes bloodshot, full of shame. It wasn't supposed to go this far, Hannah. I thought. You thought what? I snapped. That betraying me would make you feel better? That taking what I built would fix your failure? He stepped closer, his voice trembling. You don't understand how it felt. Every time Dad looked at you, it was pride. Every time he looked at me, it was disappointment. You were perfect and I was useless? I finished bitterly. That word sound familiar? He fell silent. Ethan watched us, almost amused. Touching.
Truly.
But I didn't invite you here for family therapy. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. This contains the original merger files. You want your company back? You can have it for a price. I crossed my arms. And what's your price, Ethan? He smiled. 50% of your company's net assets. You transfer them to me quietly, and I'll give you back your control. No court battles, no press. Clean and simple. I laughed, a short, cold sound. You really think I'd pay you for what's mine? His eyes hardened. Think carefully, Hannah. Without this file, you lose everything. And with your father's involvement, it'll look like your family colluded to commit fraud. The court won't save you. I stared at him, the rage boiling in my chest. You underestimate me. Then I took a step closer, meeting his gaze head-on. You know what I see when I look at you, Ethan? A man terrified of a woman who doesn't need him. That's why you did this. Not for power, but for control. His smile faded. For the first time, I saw it, a flicker of anger behind his polished calm. Careful, he said softly. You're playing with fire. Good, I whispered, because I'm done being cold. Before he could respond, I reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and pressed a button. A small red light blinked. Ethan frowned. What's that? The recorder, I said simply. Every word you've said, about the forgery, the deal, and the threats, all captured. And if anything happens to me tonight, it gets sent to the authorities automatically. For a split second, Ethan's mask cracked. You. I turned to leave, but suddenly, Tyler stepped in front of me. His face was pale. Hannah, please, you don't know what he's capable of. Ethan's voice darkened. Tyler. But Tyler kept talking, his words tumbling out fast. He told me if I didn't help him, he'd destroy you completely. He has connections, people who can make things disappear. He said he'd. Enough. Ethan roared. Before I could react, Ethan lunged forward, grabbing Tyler by the collar. The flash drive fell to the ground, skittering near the edge of the dock. Do you ever learn to shut your mouth? Ethan hissed. Let him go. I shouted. I ran toward them, trying to pull Ethan off, but he shoved me back hard. I stumbled, hitting the cold metal railing. The wind howled louder now, the waves crashing against the pier below. Tyler gasped, struggling. Ethan, stop. Ethan's voice was pure venom. You ruined everything. And then, in a moment that froze time, Ethan pushed him. Tyler stumbled backward, 1 step, 2, and his foot slipped on the wet dock. Hannah, he shouted as he fell. I screamed as he plunged into the dark water below. For a few seconds, there was only the sound of splashing, desperate gasps, and then silence. I rushed to the edge, my heart pounding. Tyler! Tyler! The water rippled violently, then stilled. I turned toward Ethan, my voice shaking with fury. What have you done? He looked down at the water, his face blank. I told him to keep his mouth shut. I ran at him, rage flooding every inch of me, but he stepped aside effortlessly. Don't be foolish, Hannah. You can't prove anything now. Not without him. You're wrong, I said, my voice trembling. Because I already have enough. He smirked. Then good luck proving it. And with that, he walked away, his silhouette fading into the fog, his car engine roaring to life seconds later. I was left standing there, trembling, the freezing wind biting into my skin. Then I heard it, a faint cough. I turned sharply toward the water. A hand. Tyler's hand, gripping the side of the pier. He was alive. Hold on, I screamed, reaching for him. Tyler, don't let go. He coughed, sputtering. Hannah. I grabbed his wrist with both hands, straining with all my strength. The water was dragging him down, but I didn't care. You're not dying on me. Not like this. With one last desperate pull, I managed to haul him over the edge. We both collapsed onto the dock, soaked and shivering. He was alive barely. He coughed again, water streaming down his face. I didn't know he'd do that. I held him close, tears mixing with the rain that had started to fall. We'll fix this. Both of us. He shook his head weakly. No, Hannah, you have to stop him. He's not done yet. Before I could ask what he meant, his eyes rolled back, and he lost consciousness. I held him tighter, screaming his name as the rain poured harder. And that was the moment I realized Ethan Walker wasn't just trying to destroy me. He was ready to kill for it. The rain didn't stop that night. It fell in heavy sheets, blurring the lights of the pier and drowning out my own heartbeat. My hands trembled as I pressed against Tyler's chest, my voice breaking. Tyler, wake up. Come on, breathe. For a long moment there was nothing. Then a shallow cough, a wheeze, and his chest rose slightly. Relief surged through me like lightning. I fumbled for my phone, my soaked fingers barely gripping it. 911. I gasped into the receiver. Please, my brother's hurt. He fell into the water near Pier 47. He's unconscious. We need help now. The dispatcher's voice was calm, professional, but I barely heard her. I was staring at Tyler's pale face, his lips trembling, his eyes half closed. Stay with me, I whispered. I'm not losing you too. Within minutes, sirens pierced the storm. Red and blue lights painted the dock as paramedics rushed over. They lifted Tyler onto a stretcher, covering him with blankets as one checked his pulse. He's hypothermic, but he's breathing, the medic said quickly. We'll stabilize him at Mercy General. I nodded, breathless. I'm coming with you. They didn't argue. As the ambulance sped through the slick streets, I sat beside my brother, holding his cold hand. He didn't wake up, but his grip twitched slightly, and I took that as a sign. A sign he still wanted to fight. By dawn, he was in intensive care. The doctors said he had mild hypothermia and water in his lungs but would recover if there were no complications. I sat beside his hospital bed, staring at the monitors that beeped softly. My hair was still damp, my clothes wrinkled, but I didn't care. All I could think about was Ethan Walker, his calm voice, his calculated arrogance, his threat echoing in my mind. You can't prove anything now. He was wrong. Tyler's confession, the recording, the shop footage, it was enough to start a fire that would burn his empire down. But I needed to move carefully. Ethan wasn't the kind of man to sit quietly while I prepared a case. He'd fight, manipulate, maybe even try to silence me. And I wasn't going to let him. Not this time. Hours later, as I sat by Tyler's bedside, my phone buzzed. It was Anthony. Hannah, he said quickly. I heard what happened at the pier. Are you okay? I'm fine. Tyler's alive, barely. Anthony exhaled. Thank God. Listen, I've been going through Venture Holdings' financial records. Something strange came up. Ethan's been moving money, millions, into offshore accounts in the last 48 hours. My eyes narrowed. He's cleaning his trail. Exactly. It looks like he's preparing to disappear. If we're going to act, we have to do it now. I looked at Tyler, unconscious on the bed. Then we hit him hard. I'll send you everything I've got, the recording, the footage, the timestamp logs. File a petition for emergency injunction. Freeze every one of his accounts before he can move another dollar. Anthony hesitated. You sure you want to go to war with him? This could get dangerous. I looked out the hospital window at the storm clouds breaking apart. It already is. By nightfall, the first blow landed. Anthony filed a court motion with the Federal Fraud Division. Within hours, Venture Holdings' assets were temporarily frozen, pending investigation. And that wasn't all. I sent copies of the evidence anonymously to every major business journalist in Chicago. If Ethan wanted silence, I'd give him noise. By the next morning, the headlines exploded. Tech magnate under federal investigation for fraud and forgery. Venture Holdings CEO accused of faking signature in $40 million merger. Whistleblower provides evidence. Insider involvement suspected. Ethan's picture was everywhere. His perfect image, cracking. I sat in the hospital cafeteria, watching the news play on the small TV. People whispered around me, some recognizing me, but too afraid to approach. I didn't care about fame. I cared about justice. But just as I took a sip of coffee, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. Hannah Miles. The voice that replied was calm, too calm. Congratulations, Ethan said. You really are full of surprises. My stomach clenched. You have no idea what's coming, Ethan. He chuckled softly. Oh, I think I do. You've started a war you can't finish. You think freezing my assets hurts me? Money's replaceable. But reputation? That's personal. So, let's make this personal. My voice hardened. If you come near me or my family again, you'll what? He interrupted. Record me again? Please, Hannah. You're not the only one who knows how to play that game. There was a pause, then his tone shifted colder. By the way, you might want to check on your office. The line went dead. My heart dropped. I grabbed my bag and rushed out of the hospital. The drive downtown felt endless. My mind raced with 1,000 possibilities, but nothing prepared me for what I saw when I arrived. Bright Solutions building was surrounded by fire trucks. Thick smoke billowed from the third floor, my office floor. The flames were mostly out, but the damage was clear. Blackened windows. Charred walls. I ran toward the barricade, but a firefighter stopped me. Ma'am, you can't go in there. That's my building. I shouted. What happened? He glanced at his clipboard. Preliminary says electrical fire. But he hesitated. There were signs of tampering near your server room. My stomach twisted. Tampering? He nodded grimly. Looks deliberate. Deliberate. My world tilted. Ethan hadn't just tried to scare me. He tried to erase the evidence, everything stored on my servers. I turned away from the smoke, gripping my phone tightly. My voice was steady, but cold as steel. Anthony, I said as soon as he picked up. He burned my office. Everything's gone. What? Hannah, that's arson. You have to call the police. I will, I said. But before that, we make sure he can't touch another cent. File the injunction extension. And Anthony. Yes. If he wants war, then he's going to get it. I'm done playing defense. I hung up and stood there, watching my company, my dream, reduced to ashes. But even in the smoke, I could see it clearly now. Ethan had made a mistake. He thought he could scare me into surrender. He didn't realize he'd just given me something more powerful than proof, purpose. And from that moment, I swore to myself. I would rebuild everything he destroyed. And when I was done, Ethan Walker would be the one left in ruins. But as I turned to leave, I saw movement across the street, a shadow watching from a black car. The window lowered just slightly. A familiar face. Ethan. He smirked, slow, deliberate. Then the car rolled away into the night. I stood frozen, the fire's reflection burning in my eyes. The war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The smell of burnt metal and smoke clung to my clothes as I walked away from what was left of my office. I didn't cry.
Not this time.
The tears had run dry the night Tyler sold my laptop, and every emotion since then had burned into something sharper, something stronger. It wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about truth. Ethan Walker had crossed a line, and now there was no turning back. I drove home in silence, the city lights blurring past the windshield. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. The voice in my head kept repeating one thing over and over. He's not just a businessman. He's dangerous. When I reached home, Max greeted me at the door, wagging his tail softly. I knelt, running a hand through his fur. "You're the only one who hasn't lied to me," I whispered. He leaned into my touch, quiet and steady. I walked straight to my study and turned on the backup computer, an isolated system that wasn't connected to any network. Years ago, I had created it for emergency use. It contained encrypted archives, records, and internal audits that could trace every move in my company. If Ethan thought the fire destroyed everything, he was wrong. The system booted slowly, and I began pulling files, transaction records, emails, digital certificates, everything tied to the fraudulent merger. But as I worked, one document stood out. A contract between Ethan Walker and a consulting firm. I opened it, scanning the details, and froze when I saw the name. Mason Financial Consulting. That was my father's small firm, the one he had started after retiring from his engineering job. My heart pounded. No. The contract was signed 6 months ago, long before my laptop incident. Ethan had been working with my father before any of this began. He had been inside our family from the start. I felt my knees go weak. My father hadn't just made a mistake. He'd unknowingly become part of Ethan's operation. Maybe he thought he was helping a client. Maybe Ethan used his firm to move the money Tyler received. But whether it was ignorance or intent didn't matter anymore. Ethan had used all of us. And now I needed to use that against him. The next morning I went to the hospital. Tyler was awake, weak but conscious. His eyes fluttered open when I entered. "Hannah." His voice was raspy. I forced a small smile. "You're alive. That's what matters." He tried to sit up, but winced. "I didn't mean for any of this, Ethan." "I know," I interrupted softly. "He manipulated you. He's been manipulating all of us." He looked at me with guilt. He said if I helped him, I'd finally make something of myself. That I'd have money, respect. I didn't know he'd take it this far. I nodded. "I believe you. But we don't have time to feel sorry for ourselves. He burned my office, and now he's trying to disappear. We have to stop him." He blinked, confused. "We." "You still have a chance to make this right, Tyler. I found something, a contract linking Ethan to Dad's firm. He's been using Mason Financial to launder his money." His eyes widened. "Dad's company? That can't be true." "It is," I said. "He probably didn't know what he was signing, but we can't be sure. I need access to Dad's client records, invoices, transfers, anything under Ethan's name." Tyler hesitated. "Dad won't talk to you. Then he'll talk to you." He looked down. "After what I did." "Tyler," I said firmly, "if you want to make things right, this is how. You go to Dad's office, get those files, and bring them to me. Don't tell him why. Just do it." He nodded slowly. "Okay." I touched his shoulder. "And, Tyler, be careful. If Ethan finds out you're helping me." "I understand." I looked at him for a moment longer. "Good. Because this time, we're not going to let him win." 2 days later, Tyler called me. "I got them," he whispered over the phone. Dad wasn't in the office, so I copied everything onto a flash drive. "But Hannah."
What?
"There's something else. There's a folder named Walker Archive. It's locked, password protected. It's personal." "Bring it to me," I said immediately. An hour later, he arrived at my apartment. He looked pale but determined. I plugged in the flash drive, and there it was, a folder labeled Walker Archive. I entered a few guesses for the password. Ethan, Mason, Venture. None worked. Then Tyler said quietly, "Try August 14th. That's Dad's wedding anniversary." I typed it. The folder opened. Inside were scanned letters, private emails, and one old photograph. I clicked it open and felt my heart stop. It was Ethan Walker standing beside my father. They were smiling. And in the background, a sign that read, Mason Financial, Partnership Announcement. The timestamp? 7 years ago. I stared at the screen, my blood running cold. He's been in our lives this whole time. Tyler leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said slowly, "this wasn't revenge. This was planned." He targeted our family years ago. I opened one of the emails. It was from Ethan to Dad. Robert, I've reviewed your daughter's company proposal. She's ambitious, but reckless. With the right influence, we could position her growth to benefit both of us. Trust me, you'll thank me later. I sat back, trembling. Dad helped him, I whispered. Even back then. Tyler's face went pale. No, he wouldn't. But deep down, I knew he would, not out of malice, but out of pride. Dad had never liked that I built my company without his advice. Ethan must have offered him a chance to guide me from the shadows. Only now, that guidance had turned into destruction. I looked at Tyler. We need to confront him. Tyler swallowed hard. You really think he knew?
I don't know, I said, standing.
But I'm going to find out. That evening, we drove back to our parents' house. The same quiet suburban street, the same pale porch light flickering by the door. It felt different now, smaller, colder, full of ghosts. Dad opened the door, surprised to see both of us. Tyler? Hannah? What's going on?
I didn't waste time.
We need to talk. He frowned.
About what?
About Ethan Walker. The color drained from his face. I told you I didn't know what he was doing. I held up the flash drive. This says otherwise. He froze. Tyler looked between us, his voice low. Dad, how long have you known him? Dad sank into the couch, rubbing his temples. Since before your sister started her company. He was a young investor, smart, persuasive. He said he wanted to mentor Hannah, to help her secure funding. I thought he was genuine. I crossed my arms. And you signed contracts with him behind my back. He nodded slowly. He told me it was safer if he stayed anonymous. That he didn't want competitors knowing he was investing in new tech. I felt sick. So you gave him access to everything, my company, my records, my system passwords. You handed him my future. He looked up, eyes full of regret. I thought I was helping you. Tyler slammed his hand on the table. You helped him destroy her. Dad's voice cracked. I didn't know, he said. I cut him off. Don't make excuses. Because of your trust, he ruined everything I built. He tried to kill your son. And you want me to believe you didn't know? He looked at me, tears forming. Hannah, I made a mistake. But I'll help you fix it. Whatever you need. I stared at him, unsure if I could believe him. You can start by telling me everything. Every email, every transaction, every call you ever had with him. He nodded weakly. Okay. But before he could continue, a sound outside made us all freeze, the crunch of tires on gravel. Headlights flashed through the window. Tyler stood, peering through the blinds. Someone's here. I joined him, and my stomach dropped. It was Ethan's car, the same black Mercedes from the pier. Dad's voice trembled. What is he doing here? I looked at them both, my heart pounding. He's tying up loose ends. The car door opened. A tall figure stepped out, coat flapping in the wind. And this time, Ethan wasn't smiling. He was holding something in his hand. Not a briefcase. A gun. The world outside slowed to a crawl. The sound of gravel crunching beneath Ethan's boots echoed like thunder in the still night. The porch light flickered weakly, throwing ghostly shadows across his face as he approached. The gun glinted faintly in his right hand, casual, confident, deliberate. Dad stumbled backward, pale as paper. Hannah, we need to call the police. No, I hissed, grabbing his arm. If he hears us moving, it's over. Tyler moved toward the hallway. We can go out the back door. Before he could finish, a loud knock reverberated through the door. Knock, knock, knock. Slow, steady, taunting. Robert, Ethan's voice called, smooth and calm as ever. I know you're home. We need to talk. Dad's breath hitched. He found me. I clenched my fists. You let him find all of us. The knocking turned to pounding. Robert, don't make this difficult. You and I have history. I'm not here to hurt anyone, unless someone makes me. Tyler whispered, he's lying. I know, I said. The pounding stopped.
Silence.
Then a metallic click, the sound of the front lock being forced. Ethan stepped inside like he owned the place.
Calm.
Immaculate. His gun hung loose at his side, as if it were merely part of his outfit. "Ah," he said, his eyes sweeping the room. "The whole family. How poetic." Dad stood shakily. "Ethan, please. You don't have to do this." Ethan smirked. "Don't have to? Robert, I already did. You signed the deals. You opened the doors. You made all this possible. The least I can do is make sure no one talks about it." My voice was sharp. "You burned my office. You tried to kill my brother. What more do you want?" He turned to me, his smile faint. "Closure." I took a step forward, glaring. "You destroyed everything, Ethan. But you forgot one thing. I keep backups." His eyes flickered just a fraction, and that was all the confirmation I needed. "You have no idea what's coming for you," I said quietly. He tilted his head, intrigued. "I'm listening. I've already sent copies of your contracts, your wire transfers, and your offshore accounts to the authorities." I lied smoothly. "Even if you shoot us all tonight, it's over." For a second, something dark crossed his face. "You're bluffing." "Try me," I whispered. The tension snapped like a live wire. Ethan raised the gun slightly, and in that same moment, Tyler lunged. "Tyler, no." I screamed. He grabbed Ethan's arm, and the two struggled, crashing into the side table. The gun fired, a deafening bang that ripped through the air. Glass shattered. The smell of gunpowder filled the room. Dad shouted, ducking behind the couch. I hit the ground, crawling toward the corner as the gun clattered away. Ethan shoved Tyler hard into the wall, sending him sprawling. He turned toward me, rage twisting his perfect composure. "You should have stayed quiet, Hannah." But before he could move, Dad stepped in front of him. "Ethan, stop. It's me you want." Ethan sneered. "Oh, Robert. Always the martyr. You still think you matter in this game?" I saw his arm tense. He raised the gun, and then another bang tore through the air. Ethan's expression froze. His eyes went wide, then he stumbled backward, clutching his side. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Tyler stood at the far end of the room, trembling, holding Dad's old revolver. His hands shook violently. I didn't mean to." Ethan dropped to one knee, gasping. You don't know what you've done." He fell to the floor, his blood spreading slowly across the carpet.
Silence.
Only our ragged breathing filled the room. Dad lowered his hands, staring in horror. "Oh my God. Tyler." Tyler's face was ashen. "He was going to kill you, Dad." I stood up slowly, still shaking. "Call an ambulance." Dad grabbed the phone. His voice cracked as he gave the address. I knelt beside Ethan. His eyes flickered, unfocused, but his voice was low, almost a whisper. "You think this ends with me?" he said faintly. "You're wrong, it's bigger than you think." "What do you mean?" I demanded. He coughed, smearing blood on his shirt. "They're already watching you." And then his head fell to the side. The room went still. Sirens echoed faintly in the distance. Tyler dropped the gun and sank to the floor, sobbing. Dad just sat there, pale, silent, broken. I looked at Ethan's lifeless body, at the man who had infiltrated every part of our lives, and for the first time, I didn't feel relief. I felt dread, because his last words weren't empty. Someone else was behind this, and they were still out there. The night Ethan died didn't end with peace. It ended with sirens, questions, and fear. Police cars crowded the front of our house, their flashing lights cutting through the rain-soaked dark. Officers swarmed the porch, marking evidence, taking photos, whispering into radios. The body was gone within an hour, but the tension stayed behind, thick and choking. Dad sat silently on the couch, his head in his hands. Tyler was in the kitchen, trembling, answering the detective's questions through cracked words. And me? I was standing by the window, staring out at the flashing lights and trying to understand what Ethan's last words meant. "They're already watching you."
Who was they?
The police treated it as a self-defense case. There were witnesses, me, Dad, the neighbors who heard the gunshots. Tyler was cleared to go home that same night. But I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's blood, his smirk fading, and those last haunting words. By morning, the news was everywhere. Business tycoon Ethan Walker dead in home confrontation. Anonymous whistleblower case takes deadly turn. Investigators confirm evidence links to broader corporate network. That last headline made my stomach twist. Broader network. It wasn't over. 3 days later, Anthony came to see me. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his tie undone. "Hannah," he said softly, "you need to see this." He dropped a folder on my dining table. Inside were printed documents, photos, and one small flash drive. "What's this?" "The FBI's preliminary findings," he said. "They've been tracking Ethan's associates for months. Apparently, he wasn't just embezzling or forging signatures. He was working with a private shell organization, laundering money for a group that controls multiple corporations, including yours." I blinked. "What?" Anthony nodded grimly. Bright Solutions was being used to funnel clean money into venture holdings. You didn't know, but your company was their cover. I stared at him, disbelief mixing with horror. "So, they were using me the entire time?" "Yes," Anthony said. "And when you started asking questions, when you tried to expose Ethan, they decided you were a liability." I sank into a chair, my heart pounding. Then Ethan wasn't the mastermind.
No. He was a middleman.
The real person behind this goes by the name Gideon Cross. He's been running operations across several states under false companies. No photo, no traceable ID, just a name that shows up every time something big happens and disappears before anyone can catch him. I remembered Ethan's dying words. "They're already watching you." My voice trembled. "Anthony, what if he's still?" He interrupted quietly.
"He is."
"They've been monitoring your calls and your emails, even your bank transactions. The moment you filed those reports, they knew." I pushed the folder away. "Then what do we do?" Anthony looked me straight in the eyes. "You disappear." That night, I packed a single suitcase. I took only what mattered: my laptop, a few old photos, the backup drive I'd kept hidden since the fire. Tyler wanted to come, but I shook my head.
"No."
"You and Dad stay here. You're safer if they think I'm gone." He frowned. "But where will you go?" "Somewhere quiet. Somewhere they won't expect me." I hugged him tight. For years, I'd thought he was reckless and spoiled. But that night, when he whispered "I'm sorry" into my shoulder, I realized how much we'd both grown. "Don't be," I said softly. "We just finally see the truth." Before dawn, I was on a bus heading north. No credit card, no phone tracking, nothing that could tie me to my name. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I had to survive long enough to expose the man behind everything. The road was long and quiet. I watched the city fade behind me, the place that had taken everything but somehow given me purpose. Somewhere between the trees and the misty horizon, I opened the flash drive Anthony gave me. Inside was a single video file labeled Cross MP4. I hesitated, then pressed play. The screen flickered. A dimly lit office. Ethan sat across from a man whose face was hidden in shadow. "You understand the instructions?" the man asked. His voice was deep, measured, almost too calm. Ethan nodded.
"Yes."
"But what about her?" "Ms. Miles is smart," the man replied. "But intelligence can be managed. If she becomes a problem, remove her quietly." My blood ran cold. The man leaned forward slightly, just enough light catching his hand, a ring. Silver, engraved with a symbol I hadn't seen before, a snake eating its own tail. Then the video ended. For a moment, I just sat there, staring at the frozen screen. My reflection in the dark window looked unfamiliar, harder, older, colder. That was the moment I knew this wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about truth. About pulling every rotten root out of the ground until there was nothing left to hide behind. I whispered to myself, "You wanted a war, Gideon Cross? You've got one." Weeks passed. I moved from place to place, Michigan, then Ohio, then finally a quiet cabin near the Canadian border. Anthony helped remotely when he could, sending encrypted files and messages through burner phones. We uncovered more. Offshore accounts, bribes to politicians, shell companies tied to major construction firms. Each thread led back to the same symbol, the snake. The deeper we went, the clearer it became. Ethan had been just one pawn in a vast, carefully hidden game. And I was about to tip the entire board. But just as we were preparing to send everything to the Department of Justice, my cabin phone rang. It wasn't Anthony. A voice I hadn't heard in weeks spoke calmly through the static. "Hello, Hannah." I froze. "Who is this?" "Don't hang up," the voice said. "You've been looking for me." My pulse quickened. Gideon Cross. A low chuckle. "Finally we speak. I must admit, I'm impressed. You've caused quite a storm. But storms are dangerous, Hannah. They destroy what they can't control." "You murdered people," I said through clenched teeth. "You ruined lives. You used my company to wash your crimes." He sighed, almost as if he were bored. "Collateral damage. Don't act surprised. You of all people should understand. Power always demands payment." "I'm not afraid of you." He laughed softly. "You should be." The line went dead. I stood there, shaking, the silence pressing down on me. Then a soft beep. A notification appeared on my laptop. Unread email. Subject line: "Sell you all." My own words. The same 5 I'd sent to my father months ago. The message had no text. Just one attachment. I opened it and gasped. It was a photo, taken through the window of my cabin, from just outside. My blood turned to ice. He'd found me. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. I moved slowly toward the window, and there, faintly visible in the reflection, was a dark figure standing at the edge of the woods. Watching. Waiting. I grabbed my phone, my heart pounding, and whispered into the receiver. "Anthony, they found me." Static. Then his voice, strained, urgent. "Hannah, get out. Now."